When mobile phones first came on the scene in the 1980s, they were huge. And by huge, I mean enormous in size. These brick phones were mainly limited to rich business executives like Gordon Gekko from Wall Street. As technology advanced, phones got smaller, thinner, and cheaper. But then all of a sudden something changed and the trend reversed. Phones started getting larger screen sizes. Some credit the iPhone's 3.5-inch screen with starting that movement, and soon other manufacturers followed suit with their own 3.5-inch models and even upped their game by introducing 3.7, 4, and 4.3-inch mobile phone screens. And then, last week, Dell unveiled the first 5-inch mobile internet device called the Dell Streak. In parallel, personal computers have been shrinking for over 3 decades. Gigantic desktop computers have been morphing into sleeker laptops, netbooks, smartbooks, and most recently, tablets. So now as computers are getting smaller and mobile phones are getting larger, are the two converging at the same point? And what's the size of that happy medium? Hi, I'm Layla Mackey, and you're watching Press Play. Last week, Dell officially unveiled a 5-inch Android-powered mid-tablet mobile internet device. Whew, try saying that 3 times in a row. Well, basically, what the hell does that mean? Well, according to Dell, this device sits firmly between the 3.5-inch smartphone market all the way up to the 7-inch tablet market. So why did Dell decide on 5 inches?
And when we conducted extensive research, we discovered that a 5-inch device offers is the optimum screen size for consumption of internet on the go and also videos and movies, while also retaining the portability or the carryability that some larger devices obviously don't offer you.
But for mobile operator Orange, their optimal screen size for smartphones is a maximum of 4.3 inches, and for tablets, 7 to 10 inches. Which leaves no room for the Dell Streak.
We would see the majority of the potential for smartphones providing a large screen experience all the way to 4.3 inches. And then if you want a bigger experience than that, 7 to 10 inches will provide you something much richer than what you would get from a 5-inch tablet. But then the compromise is a bit different. It's going to be a bit more complicated to carry that type of products around.
Well, what about the iPad at 9.7 inches? Well, for Neil Hoskins, who publishes digital books for children, the iPad is the maximum size he would want for a portable device. Otherwise, it gets too cumbersome to hold.
I think the screen's great. I think it's a size which you can hold in 2 hands, and it's a very good quality screen in terms of the visual, or you can see it from all angles. So you could and ah about whether it should be bigger or smaller, but I don't think much bigger if you're going to hold it in your hands.
Well, it seems like the right size for the proud 2 million iPad owners. And Asus this week unveiled a 10 and 12-inch tablet called ePad that will run on Microsoft 7. And there is talk that HP, which recently bought Palm, will have a tablet soon that runs on WebOS. So there will be plenty of choice not only with sizes, but operating systems. So what's the right size for web browsing and using apps? Well, to compare, today I'm going to demo the Flickster app on the 5-inch Dell Streak and the nearly 10-inch iPad. Let the competition begin. Let's start with the iPad. I had no idea how difficult it was to demo an app on both Android and the iPad. Remember, now the iPad is still very new, so there aren't that many native apps on there. And then to find one with an Android equivalent was even harder. So finally I went with the Flickster app. Let's search for Toy Story 3. Here it is. You can scroll through photos, see the cast and crew. See, this film hasn't come out yet, so there aren't any reviews. But you would be able to browse critic reviews from Rotten Tomatoes and user reviews from Flickster. Like the iPad version, Flickster on Android lets you see the cast and crew, browse through photos, see the synopsis and the release date of any movie, and how much they have grossed in the box office. The Android version also lets you connect with Facebook and Netflix. Okay, so the best way to compare screen sizes and resolution is to watch a trailer on both the iPad and the Streak side by side. Looks pretty good on both screens. The Dell is easier to hold in one hand, whereas the iPad gets really heavy, so you may want to invest in a stand like the one here. Well, for my trials, the Dell Streak was big enough, obviously not as large as the iPad. But what would I prefer to carry with me on a day-to-day basis? Definitely the Streak. For one, it makes phone calls, something the iPad doesn't do yet unless you download mobile VoIP apps. But about that ideal size, well, forget all that marketing lifestyle crap and think long and hard about what you want that device for and where you're going to use it. I mean, personally, the iPad is a bit too flashy, whereas the Dell Streak's a little more inconspicuous. But to each their own. Get the device that fits your requirement, and if there is an ideal size, well, it probably hasn't been introduced yet. That's it for this week's Press Play. Thanks for watching. I'm your host, Layla Mackey, and see you next time.